So hello everyone, and welcome to the Cisco ManageEngine NetFlow Analyzer joint webinar titled Cisco Medianet Media Monitoring, Accelerate Troubleshooting and Cut Cost. So this webinar will discuss the importance of video and enterprise networks and how you can use Cisco Medianet to get visibility into the performance of your rich media traffic and how it can be accelerated, it can help in accelerated troubleshooting of issues. So for today's webinar, we are actually glad to introduce to you our guest and main speaker, Patricia Costa. Patricia is the product manager on the Cisco Medianet team and also leads the Cisco developer program for Medianet systems management. She will guide you in detail about what Cisco Medianet is all about and why you should start using it to get better results, better performance from your rich media applications. During today's session, your phone lines will remain muted. You can type in your questions using the option available in your GoToWebinar window, and our expert panel will respond. We'll also have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. So once again, welcome to the webinar titled Cisco Medianet and Media Monitoring, Accelerate Troubleshooting and Cut Cost. Before we start, just a brief on ManageEngine. ManageEngine offers simple, easy-to-use IT management products at a price that every business site can afford. ManageEngine products can technically cater to both SMBs as well as the large enterprises. We have products for anything ranging from network and applications management to asset management, help desk, and asset management. And we also have stuff for Active Directory, syslog analysis, vulnerability assessment, password management, almost anything that an organization would need for its IT management needs. Today we'll first discuss what the current network scenario is, which actually would talk about the growth in rich media traffic usage, after which Patricia will take over and she will explain how or what Cisco Medianet is all about, how you can utilize this iOS technology available in your Cisco router. And then we'll have a quick look at ManageEngine NetFlow Analyzer support for Cisco Medianet, and then move on to the question and answer session. So what we have seen is over the past few years, we have seen many organizations localizing their business activities. Business localization in turn means more branches or network locations. So with this, what naturally comes is the need for communication between your branches, between the employees of different branches, or maybe the chief marketing engineer, or maybe the CTO of the who is at the headquarters and with one of their branch locations. So enterprises are now opting for video conferencing or video-based applications as the most preferred method for this communication. So it's not just for between branches, like business-to-business communication, business-to-consumer communications and meetings, broadcasting a major event that is happening at your organization, IP camera-based monitoring of something relevant to your business, maybe one of your branches or your data center. All this requires video. And you also have stuff like, more enterprises have adopted things like Cisco digital signage, Cisco telepresence, Cisco WebEx, and many more media-based applications. It is said that media or video traffic usage by enterprises will increase exponentially over the next few years. The Cisco Visual Networking Index for 2011 predicts that business video conferencing will grow six-fold, giving you a compounded annual growth rate of 41%. Now imagine how much of video traffic this will be when the total volume of business IP traffic by 2015 is going to be 10,000 terabytes. Now add factors like demand for high performance, high quality, and high definition videos, and you can imagine how important the performance of video communication will be when a network is concerned. Now, as more and more enterprises adopt video for various purposes, like what we discussed, the Cisco telepresence or Cisco WebEx or IP surveillance, all these, there are many performance metrics you will have to actually keep a track of. you would need to know if there is packet loss, jitter, what is the delay, and what is the round trip time. And if you can get these reports from the different hubs your media applications are passing through, you would have, I mean, from your branch to your headquarters, or from your office to your customer's head office, there would be different hubs. And if you can get it from all these hubs, what the packet loss, jitter, how is the media traffic performing, what is the media volume, all this, if you can get this, that's all the more better. So this is why Cisco has Cisco Medianet. So Cisco Medianet includes performance monitor, MediaTrace, and IPSLA video operations. So Cisco Medianet is a great feature that will help you measure the performance of live TCP and RTP flows. You get to measure different parameters like packet loss, CPU, memory utilization, jitter, error, a lot more factors which actually the expert Patricia will talk to you about. So at this point, let me have our guest and main presenter Patricia take over to explain in detail about Cisco Medianet and its benefits.
So first of all, I'd like to thank ManageEngine for giving me the opportunity to talk to you guys about what Medianet is. And in this presentation, we're actually going to focus on one aspect of Medianet, which is called media monitoring, that Dawn already gave you a brief explanation. So I'm going to start by, well, first of all, I'm a product manager on the Medianet team. I have been working with Cisco for 2 years, and you know, we have a very good team. Medianet is a project that goes across many different products at Cisco. So it not only has features in router switches, but it also includes our video endpoints. So it has been a very successful effort in terms of collaboration in our groups and you know, bringing this to market, to innovation, to help our customers solve key problems they have when deploying video, voice, and data as well. So I'm going to start just giving a brief Medianet overview, and then I'll jump in what we call media monitoring, which are the main capabilities that are shipping already now, and that ManageEngine has a tool that provides support to it. So Dawn gave a very good overview about, you know, what's happening in the market now, how video is growing. You know, most people are using video. I also would like to highlight that sometimes people don't understand, and you forget about that. The main challenge is all the different types of video we have, right? So we have situations, we see, for example, trends that we didn't have before, for example, physical security, right? It used to be analog, now we have that type of video also running in our networks. You know, and we have things, you know, they're still running there that we had before. Our voice and data applications continue to be there. Our voice systems run on the same network. So we want to make sure that customers can use all these tools in the same network and make sure that they don't have too much trouble deploying them as well as managing them. So I get this question often. People ask me, okay, Patricia, why is video different? We had the same thing before with voice over IP, and we upgraded our networks. Now everything's fine. I just need to buy more bandwidth, and everything is going to be fine. Well, the truth is that's not correct. What happens is all these different applications, they have very different demands on the network, right? So if you consider different types of applications, so let's compare, for example, streaming media to telepresence, right? So the streaming media have much less requirements in terms of latency, loss, and jitter, for example, because you can buffer the data, right? So if somebody watches a movie, you know, 2 seconds delay, 3 seconds delay, it's not so bad. So you can actually, if you have problems in the network, it's fine. While a telepresence is much more sensitive, right? But then even on applications that are of the same type, we have different characteristics. So for example, we have here telepresence, which requires much more bandwidth, you know, much more sensitive to latency, jitter, and loss than other types of video conferencing. So the point here is, if you have a network that is intelligent, that can understand those applications, they can make better decisions so that you avoid the situations. You can make use of different links to make sure at the end your user has a high quality of experience, including voice, video, and data. So the other scenario that is happening is we see this trend all the time. So every organization has, a bucket of IT resources. They are allocated a budget. They have a certain number of people that are supposed to maintain this. And now these video trends are kind of squeezing it. So in one hand, you have like executives, and they want to have their telepresence running. They want to do executive broadcasts. On the other hand, you have employees, and they are using, Skype, YouTube, and sometimes PC video conferencing. Many times, even if you don't have a business application that you use for video in your organization, the truth is employees are reaching to this. I was reading some statistics on, for example, when Michael Jackson died, how many people actually watched the funeral. So, those traffics are all going to your organization, right? So your network needs to be able to understand, separate the traffic if there's some contention with other, business critical applications. We also have special departments, so I already mentioned there's this trend of adding safety and security video to the network, right? So now, there's a couple of situations here. Not only you have people that were not used to networks before, so you have, people that used to install analog cameras, and now they're basically, moving them to the IP networks. And of course, mid-management still wants to use video conferencing, hybrid conferencing, and training on demand. So the point of this slide is just to say, okay, we have all these new applications running. Of course, the expectations are extremely high for video, right? Because we're used to getting, good broadcasts in our PCs at home. So everybody wants their stuff working perfectly, and the IT resources, are just thinking, and then they have to support all these at the same time. Make sure they are, everybody is happy, and that the business they're going to run. That you're not going to drop your SAP applications or your voice applications. So that's based on all these challenges I discussed to you. The fact that different video applications have different demands on the network, and the fact that more and more we see this converged network where you're running all these different applications in the same network. We started working with Medianet. So the definition of Medianet is, it is an end-to-end IP architecture that enables pervasive rich media experiences, right? I want to emphasize here that while video is the driver many times, Medianet is not only for video. So you can actually use the same features to monitor voice and data as well, right? And the way we're doing this is actually on a phased approach, right? So at the moment, we're on the first phase that we call deploy. So what we're trying to do now is really reduce the barriers for people to deploy video, right? So we want to make sure, it's not going to make their deployment extremely complex. We're giving them tools to understand what's going on the network so they can make the right decisions. Do I need to buy more bandwidth, or do I need to adjust my QoS policy or my PFR, and things like that. So we want to give people confidence, right? We hear all the time, not all the time, but many times, people's. Is there a question? No. So we hear people, saying sometimes, you know what, I want to use, allow all my employees to use, video on their desktop, but I have no idea what they're going to do to my network. So Medianet is trying to help you answer that question, right? So it's going to allow you to make that deployment at the same time, keep some control into what's going on. The next phase which is, going to start actually next fiscal year, actually next calendar year, 2012. It's all about helping you scale. Okay, now we help you deploy these capabilities. Let's, give you more features to help you do savings with better utilization of the network resources, right? So we can do better bandwidth utilizations and things like that, and a better integration between the network and applications. Right. Again, we believe that the place in the network is the place that is the best to make the decisions. At the same time, who knows more about the applications or the video endpoints. So Medianet actually connects those two together, so we can actually create an intelligent network to help you deploy and manage video better. And in the future, we're going to have even more features to optimize. So the point I'm trying to make here is we're going to be talking about a couple of features, but I don't want you to leave this meeting thinking Medianet is just these features, right? It is an architecture that is increasing, right? And the more, we are able to implement the new features and the new products, you guys are going to be able to leverage all that and hopefully your networks are going to be much easier to manage and ensure quality of experience. So a quick slide here to show you what the architecture look like at a high level, right? So like I talked to you before, this is much more than the routers and switches. So we actually have video endpoints and video voice and data applications. And sometimes I use the word endpoints, but we have applications like Cisco WebEx, which also is considered an endpoint, right? You're using it on your laptop, but basically that's what it's saying. And like I mentioned before, we believe those are the places where they know more about the application. They know who is talking to who. They know the quality. They know what type of application is it. Because, for example, right now I'm sharing a screen with you. I have voice going on. So these applications know which streams are voice, which streams are data. And basically, we created this media services interface, which is a software that actually resides on the video endpoints. And they basically allow the video endpoints to request intelligent network services from the network, and at the same time send the network information that they need so that they can make better decisions for you. This is already in a couple of Cisco endpoints. So we have this on WebEx, physical security cameras, and digital media systems. And early next year, we're going to have a huge amount of other applications actually joining us, Thunderbird, Telepresence, VXI, and things like that. And then what I'm trying to do is actually offer you a couple of different, I call them capabilities, right? So we have plug and play, for example, that is already shipping. So plug and play is all about making it easy for you to deploy video endpoints, right? This is extremely important, for example, in the physical security world. Like I gave you an example, it used to be analog, now it's becoming IP. Many of the personnel that used to install those cameras, they are not network experts, right? So we need to lower the barrier for these guys to be able to install in a less error-prone environment and, have less rework and things like that. So this is all it's about. So we have a feature called, it's basically about auto-configuration. You plug in a physical security camera, your network identifies it and configures the network for you. It also allows you to keep track of the physical location, right? I'm not going to be focused on that feature as well, but I'm just giving you an idea of the types of things that exist, right? And then we have other things like media services practice, media awareness, and things like that. And today we're really going to focus today on media monitoring, right? So Don already talked about the features, performance monitor, MediaTrace, and PSLA video operations. I'm going to try to do a more technical deep dive on those for you, and type in your questions. Michael Jipka from my team is going to try to answer them. And if there are more questions afterwards, I'll be happy to follow up with you. Okay. So first of all, I'm just give you a little bit of why we're creating media monitoring, what is the problem we're trying to solve before we actually go into each of the features and how they work and things like that. So the whole point of media monitoring is really to help you have an enhanced visibility into your network so that you can make informed decisions in the network as well, right? So
the pain points really that we hear all the time is, is my network ready for video reach or rich media, right? Again, the situation like, can I allow my employees to use desktop video, everyone? What's going to happen to my network? The other problem is people cannot complain that sometimes it's hard to pinpoint where the problem is, right? So for example, my voice here, is it Patricia's laptop that is performing badly? Is it her service provider? Is it something on the Cisco network? Or where's the problem, right? The other thing is a lot of times it cannot replicate the error, right? So I might call Cisco IT now and say, oh, I was doing this GoToMeeting and I have this problem, and then we try again and everything's fine. So we hear those stories all the time. And then again, I mentioned it, right? Is it the application or is it the network, right? Is it the algorithm that this video endpoint uses not good enough, or is it because the network is not being able to give what that application needs, right? So we created then media monitoring. So the idea here is to have embedded intelligence in routers and switches, again, as well as the video endpoints, right? And the solution is scalable and deployable, and I'm going to explain to you later when you guys understand what the features are, so how the solution actually works, right? Again, when I emphasize, we have the endpoints as well, right, that have media services and interface, so they can actually act as probes through the network, right? So if you guys attended the Cisco Live Las Vegas last year, we did have a demo there that showed WebEx Global Watch, which is the WebEx monitoring tool, doing a troubleshooting, from the client. So if somebody experiences a problem, they can actually start the troubleshooting from the client. That demo is also going to be on Cisco Live London if you attend. And then we have a series of routers and switches that support these features, right? So right now they're available on 3K, 4K, 6K, ISRG2, ASR 1000. So basically, you can have these features, across networks. And then we're working with folks like ManageEngine, and they provide network management support for these tools. So you guys can actually see the features and do, get nice reports from them and make the right decision. Okay, so let's see. What is it then, right? I'm talking a lot of, trying to give you some motivation here and some context. But let's see, how does this work in practice, right? So let's do a little overview again on the three features, right? So the first one is performance monitor. So performance monitor is all about, fault isolation and service level agreement validation. So what it actually is, it is a feature that is, in our router switches and endpoints, and basically what it does, it collects performance statistics. And it also includes the statistics on jitter, delay, and loss, right? So the point here is you could at any point in time understand the flows and what is going on with that flow in that network. So it also allows you to set up alerts, right? So this alert is very specific. So you could actually have an alert that says, for example, let me know if there is some jitter that is going to impact some voice, right? And then you know about that. The point here is, again, like I showed you, all the different applications have different demands, so you don't want to be alerted of any jitter. So let's say if you have telepresence running on a network, but at the same time you have, I don't know, some other video conferencing that is much less sensitive to these metrics, you don't want to be alerted every time, there might be a problem with telepresence if there's no telepresence going on, or if telepresence is not your business critical application. So the key here is you want to monitor what your business critical applications are and what's the network contribution in terms of loss, delay, and jitter to those applications. So here we have examples of the types of things you could find out, right? So you say, this one is fine. In the second router here, we have a jitter is affecting a telepresence tension. Then the other router is saying, I actually am detecting some packet drops. The other good use of this, and I talk about the service level agreement validation, is it's interesting because you could also get reports of these jitter, delay, and loss, and basically just see what's going on as a whole, right? So Cisco IT started deploying Medianet at Cisco, and my boss actually has a Cisco ISR 880 series in her home, right? That's what we're saying, I need one at home, I don't have that. And they basically enabled performance monitor there to monitor business critical applications like WebEx, for example, because we work a lot on WebEx at Cisco, so we need to make sure that WebEx is running all the time. And they basically detected that she has an average packet drop of like 10%. It varies between, I don't know, 9 and 14, I don't know. And then the point is, at that moment, they realized the problem is on the service provider, right? So basically, it saves Cisco IT a lot of troubleshooting time because they basically could detect, you know what, you have to call your service provider because basically the quality problems is coming from them, right? So it gives you that that confidence, and if you deploy this in the right places, you get this metric. Okay, that's fine, right? So let's say you're monitoring business critical applications with performance monitor, right? But you're not monitoring everything that's going on, and you're not monitoring every flow that is going on, right? There's no point in doing that. You just want to, make sure you know what's going on with the business critical application. But then, at some point, people complain, right? They say, you know what? I was in this WebEx call, and I had this problems with the video, and then what are the IT guys going to do, right? So if they look on the performance monitor metrics, if they were monitoring that application, they might have caught something. But if they were not, what they can do is to start a MediaTrace. So a MediaTrace is like a trace route. So you start it from the beginning of the flow, and it follows exactly that flow, hop by hop, collecting performance statistics. So even if you didn't have a router in the middle that you were not collecting performance monitor statistics before, it doesn't matter. You can actually collect the statistics while the flow is active, when things are happening, right? That's when I said the solution was scalable, right? Because the idea is to deploy performance monitor in places in your network, and then when a problem occurs, you actually start with MediaTrace to check the other places that were missing, right? I'm going to talk in detail about this, but a question that comes up all the time is, what if I have a third-party element in the middle, or if I have a service provider, I don't have access to the routers? Well, MediaTrace will basically skip that, right? And you're basically going to see the results of the other ones that you have. It's still extremely helpful to help you narrow down where the problem is. And the other feature is called IPSLA video operations, right? So this is a way that you can use your routers and switches to send realistic video traffic in the network. The point here is, you want to test your network without having the video endpoint. So let's say, let me see what the WebEx traffic is going to do in this. Everybody's using a WebEx HD. Let me see what is the impact on my network. So basically, you can go ahead and do that test, right? The other good use of this is, okay, you use performance monitor, MediaTrace, identify what the problem was, and you fixed it. Now you want to test it, right? So then you could also use this realistic video traffic to test it without having to input the endpoints, without having to, ask someone on the other side to pick up the call or whatever, right? Especially if you're running global organizations that have people in different time zones, this is extremely helpful to do that. Okay, so I'm actually checking the time here, and I need to speed up a bit, but let's do a deep dive in all of these, and then we can go some Q&A at the end. Okay, so what exactly is performance monitor, right? So basically, we are collecting metrics for TCP, RTP, and CB air traffic, right? We help, it helps you with cloud regulation, problem ownership assignment, accelerated troubleshooting, and SLA validation. I gave you examples of those, right? So what it does is identify and measures the user traffic on the routers and switches, right? And at the moment, what it does is the network contribution, right? Loss jitter to the media stream, and it's applied on the interface, inbound and outbound. So you can actually get, jitter observed here in the inbound interface of this element, for example. So the network is able to discover and validate all these types of traffic on a hop-by-hop basis, right? You can actually select the metrics of sets of traffic. Like I told you before, the normal deployment of this, you would not enable it for, everything, all jitter, loss, and delay, right? That would be a lot of metrics even for someone to read, right? So you just want to make sure you can identify where in the network you want to deploy this and what you want to monitor. And it still is going to help you, with the fault isolation. So let's see, you can apply this on the axis, on the one edge, and then it's already going to give you a pretty good snapshot. Oh, until my flow was going fine until it got to this point here. So there must be a problem after this point, downstream or upstream, right, depending. And it uses this, this synchronized time windows so that you can have the same 30-second intervals measured across the network. So again, I said you can actually set up thresholds and alerts, right? So you can get the metrics tested against the thresholds to trigger actions, right? So these, you can have SNMP traps or syslog, right? And I have here other options. You can have embedded scripts to start a MediaTrace, for example, or path adaptation. These are in blue. These would be like the user can implement those, right? The embedded scripts starting a MediaTrace are going to be shipping as an example in some of the versions, I believe. But the point here is there's other opportunities how we can use that. And of course, ManageEngine can use this to actually provide you the interface for this. This is a syslog screen here showing you what it would look like, right? So the type of thing you'll get, right? So you see, this is the source port, the source destination, and you get like the flow info, right? And then, and it says, okay, the threshold value has crossed. The number is 3.2, right? And this is how, you would see what happens. These metrics are also exported through NetFlow, right? So, and they can be based on flow, aggregation of flows, right? And again, this all can be used for capacity planning, troubleshooting, baselining, right? So one point is, okay, let me collect what's going on and understand the general health of my network, right? So that would be like more like a baselining type of thing. Or, I'm having problems here, so let's use it for troubleshooting. So those are the different types of, it's very flexible in that sense. And then, a lot of people ask as well, what is new then, right? So basically, we do have new metrics on the performance monitor on NetFlow, right? And here's just a couple of examples, right? And I think, the most, the ones we highlight is always like jitter, loss, delay, right? So I think the big difference that's coming up here is, okay, wasn't that before? Well, before we couldn't actually associate these two together, right? You could use NetFlow and say, okay, I'm using this much percentage of the bandwidth with, voice. I'm using this much percent with data and whatever. But now you can actually say, oh, look at this. I'm actually using 10% of my bandwidth with telepresence, and the average jitter or loss on delay is this much, right? So you're really associating the understanding of what's going on with the quality. Okay, this is just to show you the platforms we have on it today, right? So there is a series of platforms, in terms of the switches, right? So we have, and also these are the CVO router, the Cisco Virtual Office ISR routers, and then we have also ISR G2 and ASR 1000 in terms of the price and how much they scale, right? So we also, when I talk, of course, about performance, you might be wondering, okay, so what is the impact of collecting all those metrics on my routers and switches, right? So these were tests performed with this 3545, and basically what happens here is, of course, it's going to depend on how much you measure, right? So the CPU is going to be impacted by, of course, the number of flows, how complex your filters are, right? Because you could have a very complex filter there. And of course, the number of classes, which apparently is minimal impact until you have 80 classes, right? And your memory is going to be impacted by the number of flow, and minimal number of classes again. The graphic here shows you what the delta really is, right? So this is the impact on the memory with, the number of flows. So, as you can see, it grows, but it's, it's not, that much. And then the same thing with the CPU here, right? Okay, let's talk about MediaTrace then. Okay, so MediaTrace is all about dynamic monitoring, right? So basically, MediaTrace, like I told you, looks like trace route. So it discovers the L2 and L3 nodes along the flow path, and it gathers resources, interface and flow specific performance monitor statistics. So, it dynamically configures the monitor policy if needed. So let's say you did an enable performance monitor in one of the routers in the middle, but it does support MediaTrace. It will dynamically configure it for you and report on it for you, right? So the idea is you put a request to, let's say, you put a request to this router, the first router here on the left, and basically he's going to inquiry everybody downstream about it, and everybody's going to report their statistics to this router, and you can get those reports, right? So basically you would get one report saying, like trace route, right, that you have all the hops, you would say, yes, these are the hops, and this is what are the metrics, that I collected here for you. It allows you to, more easily understand what interface is dropping packets. If you have a problem with the SP, right, where's the SP being, changed. It can be requested by a remote device, right? So for example, we could do it automatically based on threshold, right? So you could have embedded event manager scripts that allow you to do that. So you say, if this happens, yes. Hello? Okay.
Yeah,
so,
Patricia, is everything fine?
Yeah. No, I was hearing something on the background, so I was wondering if you guys were wanting to tell me, but I couldn't understand.
No, here everything is fine.
Okay, good. Okay, so so you could build an EEM script, right, that basically says, okay, if threshold, if there is this flow happening and then we hit this threshold, it starts a MediaTrace automatically, right? So that means you would, be able to see that report. So this would help you, catch problems, for example, like the one you cannot replicate, right? So you could have a report with that, and then if you'll use your complaint to say, oh, yeah, we actually noticed what happened, and take the corrective actions to fix the problem. Okay, so what are the components again, right? So just to make this more clear, right? So we have the one who requests a MediaTrace, right? So it could be a video endpoint. So for example, like I told you, WebEx client is already shipping with this. So you could actually ask that WebEx client to start it. A network management system, like a tool like ManageEngine, or it could be the same node, right? Or even could be another router switch. So there's several elements in this network that can actually initiate this. The initiator is the one who injects the trace, right? So basically it says, okay, for example, if this is the initiator, it's going to say, okay, request MediaTrace up down here. And then we will have, multiple types of data requests. You can actually ask, for hops, system information, and of course, performance monitor. And then each of the responders will actually respond you, right? This also has two modes of execution. So there is a poll, and basically that's like a very, minimal configuration you can run from iOS exec. And then of course there's a session which is much more flexible, and you can, allows for periodic recurring requests and things like that. So the whole idea is that this initiator at the end of the MediaTrace would possess all the information downstream and, the metrics you ask them to collect. So this is, to show what it looks like. Of course, it's been, omitted a few lines so you can actually, see. But basically, this is the type of stuff you see, right? So you saw this hop, and this is, the TTL is 25253, and blah blah blah, and you can say this is the packet drop count, byte count, and so forth, right? And you would have a sequence of those for all those hops they were able to identify. Yes, so basically this is talking about the poll mode, right, that we can, it's like the simpler way to get statistics like this. But this gives you an idea of what it looks like. Because when I say you get this report, you might be wondering, okay, but what can I actually get? But this is what it looks like. Again, the performance, it's going to depend, as usual, right? But it's going to depend on the specific profile, right? So how many metrics are expecting to collect, right? And in terms of the number of sessions happening at the same time. So there is an iOS limitation of 255 flows. And here are some of the metrics, right? And I think you're going to get a copy of this slide so you can read in more detail, but you can see here the CPU utilization for both initiators and responders with, these sessions and, both on the performance monitor profile and the system profile and in the comparison what happens in terms of how much does it affect the performance of the element. So again, let me, I talked about this before, but now that you guys have a better idea of what performance monitor and MediaTrace are, this is some advice on when and what to monitor, right? So you have to decide what are the places you will leave performance monitoring, monitoring, and then you can use MediaTrace to complement that, right? So types of things is there's many types of flows and rest in the network, right? So of course you're going to have much more flows than how many you can actually monitor, because there's a point, your flows are going to be much higher than even the capacity of the router. So you have to look for, the idea is to deploy them in a sense that you're looking for odd things, right? So, so over time you can adjust this, right? And you cannot chase every alert, right? So you really need to think about which failures are important and service affecting. So that's why I always say deploy performance monitor in key places in your network to monitor business critical applications, right? That will be in a very generic way, right? So then you yourself can start looking into your network and say, oh, I'm going to enable it there, I'm going to enable it there. When you start collecting the metrics, I think over time you're also going to understand where the trouble spots are, and then you can start monitoring there. Now in terms of the deployment for MediaTrace, right, ideally you should enable the MediaTrace responder across, right, because the more monitoring points you have, the better, right? So your report is going to be more refined, right? You can, decide which types of applications you want to run MediaTrace with, right? And then again, here I'm talking about the different scenarios, right? We got it as right? So if you have the MVPN, what happens is MediaTrace will travel inside the tunnel. It's going to follow the same as the flow, right? If you have get VPN, it will automatically enable performance monitor on a clear interface, right? And MediaTrace will also traverse the service provider cloud. We get questions about NET, right? So right now it isn't supported. The flow isn't traceable, but it is on the roadmap, right? And if you have a firewall, you also need to open it for protocol 46 and router alerts so that you can actually get MediaTrace responses. Okay, let's talk about syntactic traffic and IP-SLA viewed operation. So we talked about performance monitor, helps to collect the statistics on the network. Then you have MediaTrace, which is the dynamic way of collecting those statistics while the problem is happening. Now we have IPSLA video operation. So some of you are familiar with the old IPSLA, so this is an extension of that IPSLA, and basically it works slightly different because what it does is generates realistic traffic with the same packet size versus traffic rate. So you can actually use that to inject in your network and collect the statistics, right? So the idea here is, you know, most probes, they measure their experience without affecting the user traffic. So let's see, you can test your network before an event. But you know, right now, everything's fine. But then you actually have all these videos running on the network, it's not going to be fine, maybe. So you want to be able to inject that traffic and simulate, right? So right now, the routers and switches that support this feature come pre-packed with prepackaged profiles, right, with our IPTV video surveillance and CTS. It can be extensible via a data file, and we're going to have a WebEx profile available soon for download as well. Again, how would you use this, right? So again, there's two situations, right? One is pre-deployment and capacity planning, right? So you want to see, okay, what happens if I now move my physical security that wasn't an, you know, analog before? What if I deploy those in the same network I have? What's going to happen, right? So you can actually test that without the endpoint. And again, the other nice way to use this is to do it, to double check your fix, right? So if you say you found a problem, you change the QoS policy or you change the configuration in the router, you can actually use this to test it. And ideally, you can actually, you know, use IPSLA video operations, so you send the traffic and use MediaTrace together. That would be nice because then you collect the statistics when that flow happens, right? And you can really have a good picture of whether you fix the problem, what's the status of the network, what's going to happen when you have that type of traffic running in your network. Yeah, so I talked about, you know, the situations here, right? So it's a pre-deployment assessment. So this would allow you to, you know, answer questions like, do I need more bandwidth? Should I deploy PFR? You know, is QoS configured right? Or, you know, is my network ready for these many desktop cameras, right? It's fully integrated with IPSLA control and scheduling, right? And the traffic is RTP, right? So again, like I said, you can actually use MediaTrace and Performance Monitor to do fault isolation. Okay, so we talked about those two features, right? I just want to share with you a couple, you know, 3 slides, or like just to conclude this, and I want to take away here, you know, how these features can actually help you. So let's go over a use case, right? Okay, how can I use these 3 features? And, you know, this is a scenario where this would help, right? So you have a user that call support and test. My last video had lots of policy problems. Because they had performance monitor enabled, the IT folks said, well, I actually saw that. We received an alert, but we already fixed it, right? So the problem is resolved. But the user is skeptical, right? He's having another meeting with the customer today and he wants to make sure it's not going to have any problem. So it says, well, I have another one coming today. Can you make sure it works well? Well, the user says, well, let's test it, right? So he says, sends the IPSLA video operations for that traffic of flow and says, you know what, it is fine. The fix corrected the problem. But the user, and then the operator also used MediaTrace, right? So it says, I know that it's following the right path. We have the right metrics. And this is because this IT person is so nice. She says, you know what, I can actually run this right before or, you know, periodically until meeting starts just to make sure there's not going to be a problem, right? So this gives, you know, confidence to, you know, both parties. I mean, it's still, things can go wrong, right? If somebody disconnects a cable, you know, I'm from Brazil, as usual, somebody trips over a cable, who knows, right? And things still go wrong. The point here is, given the things you can do to prevent problems in important meetings, important events, you can use these tools together to help you see what's going on before the meeting happens. The other question I want to answer, I get asked all the time is, okay, you talked all about this. What are the products actually, right? So basically, in the beginning, I talked to you about plug and play, right? And then I talked a bit about media monitoring. So basically, here you can see the switches and routers that support these features, right? So the ASR is just shipping now, and the 4K is going to be shipping April 2012 with those features. We already have WebEx with the media monitoring and DMS and physical securities with auto configuration. We also have a suite of network management tools. So we have Cisco tools, like so we have Cisco Prime Collaboration Manager and LMS. But we also have third-party like ManageEngine that supports these features. So you have a choice on which one best suits your needs in terms of types of situations you normally have, what are the problems you're trying to solve, and what you want to achieve. Again, just another question I get asked often, and I wanted to give an example here, is, okay, this is great, but do I have to upgrade my whole network? Do I throw away all I had before? Of course not, right? So, and it doesn't have to be in every hub for it to be realized. Like I said, you can deploy it in specific places and start seeing the benefits immediately. I gave you the example of my boss with the Medianet router. That's exactly how society started deploying in the remote areas first. Of course, the more you deploy, the better, right? So let's go through a scenario. How would you do this, right? So you could start, for example, and by the way, this is based on the actual Cisco IT deployment, and I think there's we just wrote a use case about it, and it's actually out now. So you should find that on the Cisco.com website. It's explaining how they did the deployment, how much it helped them, and things like that. So they started with the remote websites, right? So remote sites. So you see here, they started at both home offices as well as they have this telecommuting offices, right? So they enable it there. And they started to monitor just for high-value applications, right? Like video conferencing and WebEx. So they are not monitoring everything that goes on, but they're just monitoring those two things, for example. Then you start to identify other trouble spots, right? So I hear all the time there's a problem on campus A. Let's see what's happening there, right? So basically, you can actually, for example, enable media performance monitor in this element here, because then you're going to have a clear understanding, okay, let's see what's happening, right? Why are we having problems with campus A? And of course, the more you learn, then you can add additional sites, right? So based on what I learned here, sometimes there is a problem, this is bottleneck, so let me monitor this, because then you would see before you even reach campus A what happened here, so you can actually try to narrow down where the problem is and monitor and make fixes even before problems occur. This is just a huge list of additional resources that you can access later, right? So I just want to emphasize that we do have a Medianet knowledge base, which is a website where we have all our technical documentation. So you're going to find quick start guides, deployment guides. They're all based on specific problems you have, right? So if I want to improve my troubleshooting, what do I do? And these are going to be very prescriptive guides. There's also an opportunity for you to post questions there if you run into any trouble.
So before we end the webinar and move on to the question and answer session, what we will do is, I'll just show show you very briefly on what ManageEngine NetFlow Analyzer is about and how it can, what are the options available in NetFlow Analyzer regarding Medianet. So before we go into what ManageEngine NetFlow Analyzer's Medianet report is about, NetFlow Analyzer is a comprehensive all software tool for bandwidth monitoring, traffic analytics, and network anomaly detection. We use leverage on a lot of options available like NetFlow from Cisco, NetFlow, a lot of major technologies from Cisco supported like Cisco's flexible NetFlow, which is again will be able to export Medianet using performance monitoring. And then we have something called a Cisco NVAR support, which would help you with deep packet analysis and layer 7 application analysis. And we have Cisco CBQs support, where you can use the CBQs report available in NetFlow Analyzer to validate the performance of your quality of service policies. And finally, we recently introduced Cisco Medianet, with which you can monitor the performance of your rich media application, accelerate troubleshooting using the report available from Medianet, and finally get the best performance out of your NetFlow Analyzer installation. And not only Cisco Medianet, we also support IP-SLA, Cisco's IP-SLA, where Patricia actually mentioned Cisco IP-SLA video operations. And in the same manner, there is something called the Cisco IP-SLA voice and RTT monitoring, which we currently support. And then there is Cisco ASA, the Adaptive Security Appliance, Cisco Firewalls, NetFlow Secure Event Logging, which we support. And another picture which we support is Cisco WAS for your wide area application service monitoring, getting information about the optimization of TCP applications being done. So it's not only these features which we discussed, there's also support for alerting, schedules, flexible reporting options to different user needs, autonomous system view. So all that is available in the product. So coming to Medianet, Medianet implementation in NetFlow Analyzer, we have currently done performance monitor using Cisco's flexible NetFlow export of NetFlow V9 export. So using NetFlow V9, you can export your media performance monitor or media related traffic information, which would be collected by ManageEngine NetFlow Analyzer, and your reports will be shown. And then MediaTrace is supported, and IP-SLA video operation is currently in progress and will be soon available in our next release. And coming to MediaTrace, we can actually show you performance statistics of media flow, like what is the packet loss or in-packet errors, out-packet errors, and then we can also show you memory and CPU information of network nodes in the data path. Like we saw in earlier in Patricia's presentation, it is important to know more information, get as much as information you can from each of the nodes available in the network, or each of the nodes through which the traffic is passing through. So we'll show you some sample reports available currently in NetFlow Analyzer. We are enhancing on these reports, and as you can see, Medianet information or the performance monitor is tabbed under Medianet tab, and here we can show you information about each of the flows that had media traffic, and what was the traffic and what was the traffic volume or speed, and in comparing media traffic to the normal traffic, what was the percentage of split, as you can see here on the screen. And it's not only the media volume, we can also show the round trip time, the RTT, and for each of the media flows that was based on source. It's grouped based on source or destination or per conversation. You can see the report. When you drill down onto a source, you can see for each source what was the volume, transport, the RTT, the jitter, average, max, and min values, as well as the packet loss and the lost rate. So that is the performance monitor report available. As well as MediaTrace report, when it comes to MediaTrace reports, you have even more options, where in the dashboard we show you what are the top packets discarded, discarded in and out separately, CPU utilization, each session-wise, on which session, in which hop was the utilization highest, for which hop was the memory utilized the most, stuff like these. So Some of the statistics we can actually get are in space-based statistics, where you can see information about the packet errors at each, and you can also see it at each hop and at different time periods. And something else you can see is the RTP session related information. Again, the RTP packet loss, the IP packet loss. And you can also drill down. You can click on a time period you see and drill down and see what is the jitter, packet loss, volume of traffic, volume of IP packet, volume of the media volume in the list. And as you can see on the screen, you can see this happening at each of the hops in your path where the media traffic is going through. And again, we have more detailed reports where you can see in graphical format where each of the at the minimum, currently NetFlow Analyzer has the lowest time interval of 5 minutes. So within 5 minutes, what is happening at the different hops in the network. So when you are conducting a live session, when there is a live session which you actually need to monitor, you can actually use the MediaNet feature, the MediaNet and MediaTrace feature to find out what is happening. And this way you would get to know, troubleshoot your issues, and find out if there is a problem with the media traffic or with the performance of your audio application or video application. You can find out immediately. You can get immediate results on screen on your reporting software using MediaTrace. And these are the settings you create. You need to create a session based on the live flows. The live flows will be captured and displayed by NetFlow Analyzer. RTP-based flows and TCP-based flows will be displayed, and you can select those flows, define your parameters, define the threshold limits, and create them as a session, and start monitoring the session, after which you would start getting your reports like I showed earlier in 5 minutes interval. That is almost as good as real time when you have a video session or some a rich media session going on. And actually work more on this to lower the time period or the threshold at which your reports can be updated. So we'll now go on to the question and answer session. So you can ask your question, raise your questions regarding Cisco's MediaNet feature, MediaTrace or IPSLA video operations, and at which our panel can answer your questions for you. So we'll take up the questions, and if there are too many number of questions, we will then assign them. We'll then reply to them through email. Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. We'll make the recording available at the earliest, and the rest of the questions which we did not answer during the webinar, we'll reply to them. We'll send them out to you by email, and as well as the presentation used during the webinar, and the recording will be available. So thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining the webinar, and we'll keep you posted on our next webinar soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Patricia, so that was a great presentation from you. Thank you so much for taking your time off, and Michael too. Thank you so much for taking your time off to join our webinar today.
No problem. Our pleasure.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.